Hello. So I wrote earlier that I'm gonna try to share my story from a J1 scholar to an F1 student currently in the US in Temple University. So I want to share my story because I know it will bless somebody. I know somebody needs to hear this. And I'm going to leave this here so that somebody can watch it and learn. And if you get to join me whilst I'm still here, you can ask questions and I'll be glad to answer. So welcome everyone, anybody. You can send a heart, something just to let me know you are here. Okay, and if you can hear me. So if you're new and you don't know me, my name is Jifa. I'm a clinical psychologist in Ghana. I did my master's 10 years ago in the University of Ghana. And whilst doing my master's, I got interested in neuropsychology. So I met this young man, Dr. Ajololo, who was then doing his master's also. He was my senior, and I loved what he was doing. There's a message here. Okay. All right. So Dr. Jololo was my senior, and one day he called me and said, Jifa, there's this program in the US. It's a J1 program, and I think you would be excited to do it. I think it fits you. Hi, Ellie. Thanks for joining. It's been a long time. Yeah. So Dr. Jololo told me that Jifa, there's this program in the US. I think you'll be glad to join. It's a J1 visa. I said, and when you go, you'll be gone for a year and you have to come back to Ghana. And then I was trying to work on getting into a PhD program. So I said, 1 year in the US and coming back to Ghana, I don't want that. Like, I was flexing. I was into no. Yeah, but I followed up. He recommended me. I applied. That was in 2019. And that was the latter part of 2019. And COVID hit. So into 2020. So I didn't hear from them again. I didn't hear anything. And then it was silent till 2022. So 2021, I found this other PhD program in Ghana that allowed you to go to the US. And I applied. I got selected the first round, but the second round, I wasn't taken. And I was so devastated. I was so sad. I said, I thought this was it for me. I thought this was a PhD I wanted. Why has God disappointed me? And you can imagine that PhD program was in nutrition, but in partnership with the Department of Psychology. So I didn't get in. Fast forward 2022, I heard from the organization I had applied to for the J1 program. They said, we are starting applications. We are starting the program again. If you are interested. I said, of course I'm interested. And they started the process again. So I got, they'll send you a packet. So if you don't know about the J1 program, the J1 is a non-immigrant visa. Non-immigrant meaning that when you come to the US, it doesn't give you opportunity to be a permanent resident. You would have to keep changing your visa. So most people don't want to come to the US because it's quite difficult changing your visa to a permanent residence. Most people end up getting married just to be able to stay longer in the US. It's way easier if you're going to Canada after school. It's easy to get your permanent residency in Canada, but that's not the case for the US. So I applied for this program. I got selected, applied for my visa. And at the time I was talking to Dr. Jololo, when he invited me, I was pregnant. So I was thinking, at the point they selected me, am I going to leave my baby per the timelines of the project? I was supposed to leave Ghana like 3 months after giving birth to my baby. And I thought, no, this is, I don't know how I'm going to do this. This will be very difficult for me to do. But I applied for my visa, and Ghana, I applied for my visa about June thereabouts, and I was expected in the US in December, but I didn't get a date. I tried everything possible to get a date. I got a date the following year in March. So I had just delivered my baby March the previous year. So I'll be leaving my baby whilst he'll be like a year old. I thought, okay, that's perfect. That works for me. So I wasn't in a hurry to leave. I wasn't in a hurry to leave Ghana. I wasn't in a hurry to leave my family because it was a tough decision. So the following year, I attended my visa interview in Ghana, and I was asked about 2 or 3 questions. So this guy asked me, the VO asked me, what are you going to do in the US? I said, I'm going on a J1 trainee program. And if you are going for a J1 program, it is not a work visa. It doesn't give you an opportunity to go and work in the US. It only gives you an opportunity to go and receive training and come back. So if you go saying you are going to work in the US, then trust me, you're going to be rejected. You're going to go back home without a visa. So I told the I'm going to do training. And he asked about statistics of autism in Ghana. And I thought, autism statistics, like who has that data? We don't have data in Ghana. And it's all about confidence. So if you're confident going for your interview, just let them know that you know your stuff. You know what you're about. You know what you're going to do. And I told him we don't have data in Ghana on autism. Like, that's why I'm going to do this program, hoping to learn something and bring it back to Ghana. He said, yes. I'm very happy to grant you this visa. Go and make the lives of these children better. And I ended up in the US on my J1 visa. So at that point, I didn't know that there were other ways of changing your J1 visa to another visa. When I attended that interview, in my mind, I knew that the J1 visa, when you go to the US, you have to leave after your program. I didn't know there were ways around it. So the ways around it is that you have to get a waiver. So the waiver document is a document you need from your home country that will say that, okay, you've done this training, but we are okay to let you stay to do any further training or change your visa to another visa status. So when I landed in the US, I found out that, okay, so I have to get the waiver if I want to keep staying in the US to do something else. So the first few months I got to the US, and I started working actively on getting my waiver. I applied for my waiver documents. Sometimes you have to pay for it. You have to pay a lawyer to get it. You can do it yourself. I later found out that you can actually apply for a waiver document yourself. You just have to investigate to check how to do it. So I applied for my waiver document about 6 months into my J1 program, and it took forever. And you have to get that waiver if you want to change your status in the US. So if you're on a J1 program and you want to stay further in the US, you have to get that waiver before you can change status to another status, or else you have to leave the country and then apply again. So I applied for the waiver. I never got it. So that was plan A. And along the way, whilst I was trying to get that waiver, I also started applying for schools. So I applied for a PhD program to 2 schools. The first school, I got rejected, and it's because they never got my transcripts. So if you're a student, you get to watch this and you're listening, sometimes lots of things can stand in the way. So around, I guess, September, when I started applying for schools, I have to get my transcript evaluated by the World Education Service. And when I applied to the University of Ghana to send my transcripts to World Education Service to be verified, it delayed because UG was on strike. It took UG almost 6 months to get my transcripts, almost forever. Temple never got my transcripts. They never got my transcripts. So I say that being at Temple is a miracle. The other university I applied to kept telling me that without my transcript, they are not going to review my applications. I sent my unofficial transcripts to them. They said, no, we want official transcripts. At a point, I gave up because I did everything I could. Most people who are my friends know. Everybody I knew in Ghana who works in the University of Ghana, I made them follow up. I called, I disturbed people. I made my brother go there. I made my father go there before I finally had that transcript sent to World Education Service. And even as they sent it, they didn't even send both of my certificates. They sent just one until I visited Ghana in January before I followed up again and I got those transcripts sent to World Education Service. So this is the miracle. I sent my transcripts after I had received admission. So in December, the deadline for the application was almost up, and I kept telling the school that, please, I don't have my transcripts. Can you just look at my unofficial transcripts? Temple Graduate School got back to me and said, no, we are not going to consider your application. We need your official transcripts. Okay. I said, I don't have it. I'm trying to get this from the university. They are on strike. That was from September all the way to December. So I gave up. And in January, I had just woken up to that email from the graduate school telling me that they won't consider my application. And then I had another email from the school psychology program, the faculty, that they were inviting me to an interview. What? Like, you're inviting me to an interview? I thought they said they're not going to consider my application. How did I get this lucky? Maybe they made a mistake. Maybe it's not me. So they were asking if I was available for an interview. I said, wow, that's interesting. So I made it for the interview. I had written in my SOP, I wanted to work with 2 faculty members. It was a whole day interview. And it doesn't mean that you'll be talking to people the whole day, but this interview was in like 4 sessions. You'll talk to the faculty members you want to work with, will interview you. You meet the current alumni, current graduate students. They'll tell you about the program and what the program is about. But it was a long day interview. And after that interview, 2-3 weeks down the line, I had this email. At dawn, I woke up and I saw that email that, hey, you've been accepted to Temple University. Hi, it said, thanks for joining. Thanks for joining. So I said, wow, I've been accepted. Like, these people just sent me an email the night before that they were not going to consider my application because they didn't have my transcript. How am I being accepted now? So that's how I got into Temple University, and that was the beginning of the other difficult part. So I didn't have my waiver, remember, and I need my waiver to change my status in the US. So when you finish your J1 program, you have exactly 30 days, 1 month, to change status or leave. If you don't leave after the 30 days, you are an illegal immigrant. So I had started this process of getting my waiver so I can change status within the US, and it wasn't working. I wasn't getting feedback. So the second option was to go to a neighboring country to attend a visa interview and then come back. So you have to leave the US and then fly back with your visa into the country. So I looked at Canada. Okay, Canada is a neighboring country. Let me try Canada. So I put in an application for a visa interview in Canada. And guess what happened? So I got my Canadian visa in December. So this whole process I had started when I was doing my J1 program. And I got a 10-year visa, a visitor's visa to Canada. So I knew I could go to Canada to attend my F1 visa interview. Canada gave me 2025 visa interview. Like, how was that possible? I'm supposed to be in school in 2023. How do I attend an interview in 2025? So Canada was not working. I kept checking. I wasn't getting a date. Somebody told me to look at Ghana. I started looking at Ghana, and I know the Ghanaians watching me are wondering, like, Why would you leave the US and come and attend an interview in Ghana? Sometimes that is the only option. I started looking at opportunities in Ghana to attend an interview. It wasn't working. I wasn't getting a date. Like, people were telling me, don't even dare come. And then Mexico became an option. So that was like plan D or plan C. And I applied for a date in Mexico. I applied for a date about 2 months to being in school. I was given September 28th, which is exactly a month I was supposed to be in the US, in school. So I applied. I kept looking for a closer date, because if I come a month after school, like, how would they even allow me in? That's difficult. I tried and tried. I wasn't getting an earlier date until 2 days to my program ending, at my host program, at my J1 program. I think I was the 15th, 14th, thereabouts. I kept checking online. I was getting desperate because my program is ending and I have 1 month and I wasn't getting a date. And we kept praying. My husband and I kept praying, trying to look for a date. And some way, somehow, grace found me. I got a date in Mexico, Cuidad Juarez in Mexico, for the 14th of August. 14th of August. I was supposed to be in school on the 28th of August. So I packed my bags, left the US on the 14th, 13th of August, landed in Mexico, Cuidad Juarez, and then attended my visa interview. Very interesting visa interview. Very easy. The view asked me, what was I doing in the US? Why am I in Mexico? I came to attend the interview. Okay, what program am I going to do? This was less than 2 minutes, and my visa was approved. After my visa was approved, I was supposed to receive my passport back a day or two after, because I was in a hotel which was costing like $100 a day. And unfortunately, my passport delayed. I was stuck in Mexico. I didn't have access to my funds. It was scary. And some way, somehow, I got my passport back in 8 days. 8 days in Mexico. And I was able to cross the border back into the US. Flew from Cuidad Juarez to Philadelphia, where my school is. So this has been my J1 journey. And if you know anybody who is on a J1 program, I would like to say that you have to be proactive whilst you are here on a J1, because you don't have much time. You have to think fast. You have to think ahead. I started applying for schools way ahead of time, 6 months to me ending my program. I started getting another visa, and that Canadian visa helped me fly to Canada, because helped me fly to Mexico, because if you are going to Mexico, you don't need Mexican visa if you have a Canadian or US visa. And mind you, my US visa had already expired when I was on my J1 program, because my J1 program had ended and I was supposed to leave the US. So if I hadn't planned ahead and taken those active steps, it would have been difficult. I'm grateful to God for how far He's brought me. It hasn't been an easy journey, but I pray and hope that anybody out there who is looking forward to pursuing further studies in the US or abroad, things will get to work out for you and you'll be able to live your dreams. Yes, Ellie, glory be to God. Yeah, God has been good to me. God has been awesome. For those who joined late, I was sharing my J1 journey from a J1 visa to an F1 student now at Temple University. I'm pursuing a doctoral program in school psychology, and I chose school psychology because I love to do testing. I love to do IQ tests and cognitive testing, and the professor I chose to work with is a school neuropsychologist. So she is focused on working with children, providing interventions for children, and I am happy to be part of this program. Okay, so Adedayo says I finished in September 2022. and I'm back home on 2 years home residency requirement. Yeah, so if you are not able to get a waiver or change to another status, then you would have to leave and be home for 2 years before you can come back. Yeah, but I wasn't ready to go back home for 2 years and come back. So I had to leave to another country and get my visa changed. Thank you all for joining, those who were able to join. And if you have any questions before I end this, you can ask before I end this live. I don't plan to be here for long. Yes, it's not me really, it is God. It's God who did it for me. Let's see. Yes, God is on my side. Thank you, and do have a good evening, all of you. Bye for now from Philadelphia. Thank you, Adedayo. Thank you.